Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is our very special guest today. Thursday, February 13th. February 13th, oh my goodness, Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Again, they do it like every year. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity, Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Visit afpwisconsin.com to learn more and to join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. Hey, a quick programming note. We have a special Friday show scheduled for tomorrow when I'll be joined by and chatting with Wisconsin DPI State Superintendent candidate Brittany Kinzer. That show is scheduled to start at 8:30 a.m. right here on our Facebook page. But today we are welcoming back Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative who joins us every month on the second Thursday for a 30-minute unscripted chat, Congressman Tom Tiffany. Tom, good morning. How are you, sir?
For all of you guys out there that are going to take your wives or girlfriends out for candlelight dinners, who are going to buy them chocolates, who are going to get them flowers, and shame those of us that are schmucks when it comes to serving our wives as we should, we're going to find you. We're going to find you.
Yeah, don't make the rest of us
make the rest of us look really bad, don't they, Ben?
100% right. Oh, my goodness. That just snuck up on me. Oh, my goodness. Hey, how are things going over there? Yeah. Hey, you bet. Anything I can do to help. How's it going? It's been since the last time you're on the show. Again, you come on once a month. So it's been a month, but now Donald Trump has been sworn in. You know what? Before I get to that, I don't know if you heard that Brittany is going to be on the show tomorrow. Are you following the Wisconsin DPI State Superintendent race at all? I mean, it's just a primary on Tuesday, but still, it's a primary. Are you following that race at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Certainly following the Supreme Court race more. That is the race that is going to be key for Wisconsin, probably more important than the races for governor and attorney general in 2026. But been following the DPI stuff. I mean, we're seeing an utter failure of the education system in the state of Wisconsin here over the last decade, and a lot of that falls on the DPI. And there needs to be fundamental reform of the Department of Public Instruction. And whoever can do that and get back to educating our kids rather than indoctrinating them, boy, they got all my support.
Speaking of, I Googled your name because I really don't prepare for these shows that much. I probably should. But like a half an hour before you come on, I Google your name. It's my favorite thing to do is to Google your name right before you come on. And I saw something, it was about a week ago. The headline, this is from Northern News Now. The headline was Representative Tiffany proposes bill to get rid of U.S. Department of Education. I clicked on it this morning, but it wasn't a story. It was a video story, and I didn't have time to watch it. I was just going to skim through it real quick, so I didn't. But is that accurate? Because I didn't see a press release about this or anything that came out. Is that accurate? Representative Tiffany proposes bill to get rid of U.S. Department of Education.
So I've signed on to a bill. My colleague Thomas Massey out of Kentucky he's the lead author on the bill. I've signed on to it. Good morning, Wayne. And I signed on to that bill. I think it's time. Every state has a Department of Education. The federal government brings very little value. It was started in 1979. Have test scores gotten better by kids across America? No, they haven't. Hey, Dave, good morning. And it's time to end it. Now, there's a couple programs within it so some people are like, okay, you're going to eliminate the disabilities program. No, you don't have to do that. You can keep the disabilities program within the Department of Education. You can keep the student loan program, just move them to other agencies. But the Department of Education is doing very little for student achievement across America, as we saw with the test results that came out 2 weeks ago, where we've got a serious problem in America and in Wisconsin on the educational front.
But I'm sure you get pushback on stuff like that. I mean, headlines like that, which, I mean, if it's a factual headline, it's a factual headline, right? Totally get it. But you have to get pushback because that's anybody that hears a legislator or a congressperson getting rid of the Department of Education. There has to be people who are like, come on. Really? You are anti-schools, you're anti-teachers, you just want to get rid of it all. Is there a messaging problem there where it's not like we just want to get rid of it per se, but we do, but we don't? How do you field those questions when you have constituents reach out to you about this?
Yeah, I share the answer that I just gave to you. And I think for most people, they understand it, and especially what's gone on with the first couple of weeks. Good morning, Sharon. The what's gone on the first couple of weeks of the Trump administration, they have found the incredible waste and fraud that is going on in our system of government here at the federal level, and it needs to be changed. And so, I mean, just think about it this way. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of employees in the Department of Education. They all have to be paid. The taxpayer dollar from, for example, Polk or Burnett or Washburn County in Wisconsin goes to the federal government. They take their cut out here in Washington, D.C., and they send a little bit back to the states. It is an incredibly inefficient way to fund the educational system. It is much better that the state and local governments run that. And I mean, that's why we should be empowering local school boards to be the primary drivers of the educational program in our schools. The federal government is bringing very little value to this.
Who are you a bigger fan of right now, Donald Trump or Elon Musk? Because I have a little bit of a sneaking feeling that maybe Elon Musk, because knowing you for as long as you've been on the show and come on back when you were even the Wisconsin state senator, and you were on joint finance, right? It was the money aspect that's always been very, very important to you, and kind of the wasteful spending aspect of it. Who are you a bigger fan of right now?
Well, it starts with the president. The president said out on the campaign trail, he said, we are going to set up DOGE, the Department of Government Expenditures. Is that right? Expenditures or efficiency?
Yeah. Yes.
Whatever that is. And I was so excited when he decided to do it. And I'm so pleased with the work that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, though he's gone by the wayside now, that they did in getting this started and exposing to the American people the incredible amount of waste, the incredible amount of fraud that is going on. There's a good reason we are $36 trillion in debt here in America, and a lot of it stems from the work that they are exposing the American public to, the waste that is going on. But this does not start without Donald Trump. President Trump is the one, and he was very clear to the public. People are out there like, what makes Elon Musk the dictator? Is he the king now? Is he really actually the president? No. President Trump said out on the campaign trail, we're going to start this thing called DOGE, and we're going to root out and ferret out all the wasteful spending that's going on. And we're going to make sure that the dollars that the American taxpayer is putting in is being spent in a good manner. So, I mean, it started with President Trump, and it would not have happened without President Trump. Now, I have great respect for what Elon Musk is doing, because he ain't taking a penny for this, and he's going to take and continue to take a lot of abuse for doing something that is long overdue. And by the way, something Congress should have been doing for the last 30 to 40 years, and it has not.
You and I have talked about that when you come on the show over these years, about our deficit and how much just in interest that we're spending. And you and I have talked about this. About at what point does that kind of stop? I mean, it's always like it's the next person's problem, right? Next person, of course, next president, next Congress. It's at some point we have to kind of shake things up. Are you satisfied with how they're doing it? So the intent, great. The objective, the mission, perfect. But how about the implementation? Are you satisfied with how it's being implemented?
Well, there's a fair amount to go here to get the implementation. I mean, really, what DOGE is doing at this point is they're exposing the waste out there, and then the Trump administration says, "Okay, we're going to freeze spending in this particular program, for example, USAID, and we're going to review it." And so what you're hearing from the other side is they consistently say, oh, this is going to jeopardize this program, that program, whatever. For example, somebody came into my office yesterday and they said, what about the seasonal employees that work for the United States Forest Service? Is the work going to get done on the Chequamegon Nicolet this year? Are there going to be seasonal employees at the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore? Because they hire seasonal employees. I believe there's no reason why those things can't be done. What they're doing is they're saying, we got to pause here and make sure the dollars are going out for things that the American people actually expect to have happen, rather than this waste going to drag queen shows in Colombia and Ecuador and places like that. And Sesame Street gets Sesame Street program gets $20 million over in Iraq. Stuff like that. It is an utter waste of the taxpayer dollars. So we need to make sure that we're spending money on what is important to the American people, like harvesting wood on the Schwamigan Nicolet, and not funding stuff like the crazy spending that goes on overseas, as well as some domestic programs.
I've seen some stories that you would mention some things, drag queen shows, etc., and some of these are like smaller dollar amounts, right? 75 grand, whatever. And the kind of the pushback there was like, this is a drop in the bucket. But honestly, when I look at it, and again, nothing to do with whatever that money was spent on, but if we don't need to spend it, we don't, because that stuff starts adding up. And if I have any kind of hope here with what Elon Musk is doing, the president is doing, you start looking at all these programs, and even if it is a smaller amount, that stuff starts adding up pretty quick. And I think that's also kind of telling of how we just kind of, it's no big deal. We'll just spend that money. So I really kind of appreciate that. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. Listen, we have a couple questions here. And by the way,
I would just add, Ben, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly right. Like, I'm actually okay with that. Like, I'm not criticizing just the 75 grand. Like, that's fine. If we don't need to spend it, we don't need to spend it. So Dave Wilson has a question about some of the things we're talking about, but I want to go back to a question here so I don't forget it. This is from Wayne. Tom, what is your opinion of Common Core math?
There was a great debate in regards to Common Core about a decade ago. It was really a hot issue and hasn't been in the news so much of late. But everything I understood is that Common Core was not going to achieve the educational goals that we've had for the American people for a long time. I would answer the question this way. The pedagogy, the way we go about teaching kids and what we teach them a lot of it has been set aside here over the last couple of decades as we've had these newfangled ways that have come out, like, for example, with reading, something called 3Qing, and rather than using phonics. And some of these newfangled ways have not worked at all. I think we really need to look at what has worked, and then implement it, because we're going with some of the newfangled stuff that has not succeeded, and we need to get back to teaching the basics. Parents, I think about us as parents, me and my wife, Chris, we just wanted our kids educated. We don't want them indoctrinated, and that's what's been going on. And we want to make sure they get a good education. And I think some of the tried and true ways that we gave kids a really good education for well over 100 years in Wisconsin and across America were set aside, and that we need to get back to some of those tried and true ways. I would add one other thing. I agree with all the states and local communities that are saying we're no longer going to have cell phones in schools. I think it is time to end cell phones in schools, and we got to make sure that our kids are getting educated without all kinds of distractions, because as you well know, there's a lot of distractions in the 21st century world of America.
I actually just saw that. Wasn't that a Wisconsin? I thought I just saw that a couple days ago, earlier this week. Isn't there a bill that's being introduced in Wisconsin for that?
I believe there is. I saw a little bit something, but I didn't see much detail on it.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was interesting because my son Kenneth, I got a call from one of his teachers, and it was had his phone, maybe looked down and just, hey, heads up, FYI, whatever. So we kind of addressed it. But I was talking to Kenneth. I'm like, so wait a minute, I thought you couldn't have a cell phone in school. And hopefully none of his teachers are listening to the show.
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, Ben, keep talking. I'm just going to go grab a glass of water. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. This is bizarre. Hopefully none of the teachers are listening. Because it said, so isn't there like a rule or a policy in the school that you can't have, stuff? It's like, yeah, but nobody really follows it. It's only if, you don't want to take it out and look at it during class and stuff, but if the ringer's off, I'm like, well, that seems weird. I kind of feel like if there's a policy, honestly, the policy should just be you shouldn't have one. Just keep it in your locker. But if they have a policy, follow it. So I don't want to get off on that because that's the thing. I want to go back to some of these questions here.
Sure.
We have Dave Wilson asked, Congressman, have you seen any waste, fraud, abuse disclosed by DOJ that wasn't already presented by Rand Paul in his Festivus report. I hope you know what he's talking about because I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I haven't read the Festivus report, though I'm familiar with it from Senator Paul, who is one of the ultimate fiscal conservatives out here in the Congress of the United States. But I'm sure there's a lot of crossover there, especially in regards to the foreign policy spending that's going on. So I don't know specific examples, but I'll bet you that there's a lot of crossover between those two initiatives.
Okay. And Dave, I had another question as well. Thank you, Dave, for your question. Congressman, do you have any concerns that Congress will lose the, quote, power of the purse, unquote?
I mean, we have a responsibility. I mean, in that way, so Congress initiates spending, right? All spending bills initiate in the House of Representatives, and we're not going to give that up because it's constitutional. So if that does not happen, then the courts are going to there's going to be court cases filed, and the courts are going to rule on the side of the Constitution ultimately. At least that's our expectation. So, no, I'm not worried about losing the power of the purse. I'm more concerned about us using the power of the purse to make sure we don't drive America further in debt, because there is plenty of spending that can be reduced. I mean, think about it. So, like Medicaid spending for illegal aliens, food stamp spending for illegal aliens. I mean, we shouldn't be doing those things. There's still money out there in regards to COVID. Not a lot anymore, but there's still some money out there. All the green stuff, the EV charging stations, stuff like that. We shouldn't have to buy Quick Trip's gas pumps. They can buy their own. They don't need to be getting a grant to have these EV charging stations put in. So there's all kinds of ways in which we should, things that we should not be spending. We need to use the power of the purse to get America back on track with fiscal responsibility.
All right. We have a couple more questions, and there were some press releases that you had put out I want to ask you about. We'll get to all of that in 15 seconds after a word from Spooner Health.
At Spooner Health, compassion is at the center of everything we do. It's rooted in who we are and why we're here. It unites us as providers, neighbors, and as a community. Learn more at SpoonerHealth.com.
All right, so we have a question from, I don't know if it's a fake profile, I always get hesitant when I don't see a photo on a Facebook thing, just a silhouette. Why did the top 2 ICE agents resign yesterday? Answer the question, my Tiffany. I kind of feel like that's a fake account, but whatever.
I think he meant Mr. Tiffany. So I don't know what he's citing there. I have not heard that. I don't doubt that it may have happened, but if they're not doing their job. So I would share a story that I just got this morning from in the district. Illegal alien committed a second offense, drunk driving, and they called ICE and said, we would like you to issue a detainer. ICE said, no, we can't do it. We don't have the facilities to be able to do it. So I don't know. We're going to get to the bottom of this and find out what's going on. But a second offense drunk driver who's an illegal immigrant should not be in the country. By the way, the log truck driver over in Russ County that we spoke about a year ago who was killed in an accident, that was a second offense drunk driving illegal immigrant that killed that log truck driver, running him off the road. His 3 daughters no longer have a father. And so this stuff is really serious. And could it be tied to that they were not issuing the detainers that they should? I don't know the answer to it, but what's being made very clear by this administration, President Trump has made it clear to everyone. You mentioned Doge, you think about Tom Homan, you think about Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security. These people have been given orders. You will follow through with what we promised the American people we were going to do in that platform we were elected on November 5th. So I would bet that it's tied up in that, but in order to speak more definitively, I need to see the full story.
All right. And this is another one. I'm not sure how much you can really help here. It's quite a bit. I'm currently fighting with SSA, SSI since I was injured at Henry Repeating Arms, and they are still getting denied for obvious corruption issues. Is there something I can do in the meantime? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put that back up. To benefit my family while they are taking care of me while SSA is postponing my court date for another 2 years. Not 100% sure that's something you could probably address, but hey, if somebody has a question, we'll put it up.
Yeah, sure. What I would suggest to Louis, I think I saw the name was Louis on there. Contact my office, 715-298-9344. We're happy to follow through. We make one promise that we will do the best that we can. We don't promise that we always get results, but we do promise that we'll do the best we can. Contact my office. We'll follow up.
All right, there's another question, but I want to get to this, and I'll get that question up here in a second. You had a press release recently. In the headline, there was Tiffany reintroduces bill to ban DEI in the federal government. For people who didn't get the chance to see that, what was that about?
Yeah, it's our country has always believed that we should be a colorblind society, that all men are created equal. And since the Great Society programs of the mid-1960s, that has not been the case, where there have been preferences given to people based on their race, creed, color. And that should not be the case. And so I introduced a bill to end all types of discrimination by the federal government. And my statement is real simple. It is, if we're going to end discrimination in America, shouldn't the federal government be the first ones that are no longer discriminating? Because that is what has been happening in, whether it's our military, with our public educational system, in particular the universities around the country that get federal aid. We need to stop this. And President Trump issued his executive order that will be in place as long as he is president to end this. It is about time. But we should make it enduring. And that's why I introduced the bill with my colleague, Representative Burgess Owens, by the way, an African-American man who grew up in the Deep South, now represents a district in Utah. He and I have partnered together now for 3 sessions of Congress that we've introduced this bill, getting a lot more attention in this session of Congress. It is time that we codify this and say, for future purposes, not just for the next 4 years, that we are no longer going to discriminate in America. We are going to be a merit-based society.
All right, we have several more comments and some questions here, so I know we're almost getting close to our time here, but let me do some rapid fire. Just your quick takes here, or quick explanations on some of your press releases, or kind of quickly expand. U.S. House passes Tiffany's Acres Act by voice vote. These are all the press releases that that your office has sent out since the last time you were on the show. So people didn't get a chance to see that. What was that?
Yeah, it has to do with national forest lands, and it's having accountability. What we were finding is that U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, were double counting acres that they had treated, and sometimes triple counting acres. And so they were actually saying, we treated more acres than what they actually did. We want accountability on how many acres that they're treating. We see the wildfire problems, right? We got to make sure we have accountability from that federal agencies.
And where is that now? If it passed the House, it must be in the Senate now. I'm assuming it has to go.
It's waiting over. It's waiting for action over in the Senate.
Understood. Next one was Representatives Tom Tiffany and Lauren. Is it Boebert or is it Boebert? I don't know. It reintroduced legislation to delist the gray wolf from the endangered species list. Seriously, we talk about this all the time. How is this not already done? Where are we in the process?
Just introduced the bill a couple of weeks ago. We expect to have a hearing in March. I expect that we're going to pass it out of the House, just like we did last session, and it'll be before the Senate. And we are hoping that the Senate this time will get it done. The key votes are going to be here in the upper Midwest over in the Senate. Senator Tammy Baldwin, Amy Klobuchar, the 2 senators over in Michigan. People should be contacting those U.S. senators and saying, support this bill. It is time for delisting. The wolf is recovered. And by the way, the depredations of pets and wildlife are going on as we speak at a serious pace. I mean, they're going up every single year now. And we're even seeing some human-wolf interactions, which is really scary.
That's not good.
By the way, we changed the name. We changed the name of it. We're calling it the Pet and Livestock Protection Act. This go around, I think that's much more descriptive of the problem that we have. The Pet and Livestock Protection.
Pet and Livestock. That was patent. I see. Pet. Actually, yeah, that probably does. And the other one here, Tiffany reintroduces resolution to scrap, quote-unquote, one China policy, normalize U.S.-Taiwan ties.
Yeah, this goes back to Jimmy Carter when he was president. He said, we're going to have one China policy. We're not going to recognize Taiwan. It took congressional action to recognize Taiwan, but officially from the executive branch, which handles foreign policy, Taiwan has been treated as a arm of Communist China. Communist China, or China, mainland China, call it whatever you want, has never had jurisdiction over Taiwan. Never. And Taiwan should be treated as its own country. We have introduced this legislation multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Stop the one China policy. Taiwan is separate from Communist China.
All right, let's get to a couple of these questions and comments. Barb asked, any comments on the conflicts of interest with Elon Musk?
So I think they're being very careful about that. So ultimately, as President Trump said, hey, the buck stops with me. Elon Musk answers to me. And I'm sure the administration is watching very carefully so that those conflicts do not arise. But a lot of this is just attacks on Elon Musk because he's found a way to figure this out. By the way, I think he's using artificial intelligence with, people call them the Doge boys, those young guys that are working with him and they go into these agencies. I think that's how they are so rapidly getting the information that they're turning out. I believe they're using artificial intelligence that so rapidly processes information. And that's how they're figuring out all the waste and abuse that's going on in these various agencies.
It's been a lot real fast. It really has. Dave?
Yeah, it has. And by the way, one of the things he cited is he's like, when these checks go out, it doesn't even say sometimes what it's for. And it doesn't have an authorizing segment to it. I mean, this stuff is just going out willy-nilly. No one has went back and audited these things for decades. And that's why he is finding so much of this waste, fraud, and abuse that's going on.
So the IRS doesn't audit they audit everybody else, small businesses and everyone else, but they don't even, you know what, that's a whole other thing. Let's not get into that. Here's one last question from Dave. Congressman, with the March 14th timeline fast approaching for budget concerns, do you anticipate the use of CR or the funding of the government move closer to an actual budget process? Doggone it. I have it set for 10 seconds to be removed. I need to move that up to 15. Close to actual budget process of 12 appropriation bills, IAW, the Budget Act of 1974. I'm too stupid to understand what that question is. Hopefully you understand it.
Dave, you're spending way too much time studying what's going on in Washington, D.C. when you know minutia like that. But he brings up a good point. I do think you're going to see a continuing resolution on March 14th, and because that's when the current one expires, and just do it till the end of the year. But then I would hope for the fiscal year that starts October 1, 2025, that we'll go through the full budget appropriation process.
All right. And my father, former Washington County Sheriff Terry Dryden, has a comment. There is a hearing now on U.S. Aid. Foreign Relations Committee and a former administrator of U.S. Aid said a lot of the expenditures in question was from the State Department, not USAID. True. Don't think that was the actual question. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, he's probably right.
All right. Last thing here. Oh, I missed one from Wayne. I'll get to that. Congressman, I truly appreciate you to come on this platform, take questions, and keep it. Oh, that was very nice. Great show. Here is one more thing here from Wayne. We had a construction of a new VFW building and community center in the past approximately 10 years. I've spoken with some veterans. They've had to fight for funding while holding fundraisers. Just wondering if there's some more that they can do to get it finished.
Contact my office, 715-298-9344. We have people that work specifically on veterans issues. I would address that question to them, Wayne, because I'd have to go back and ask my staff exactly what we can do or if there is stuff in the pipeline. Just call them directly. They'll get you an answer. Yeah.
We covered a lot. Didn't really get a lot of time to talk about, things that you're working on right now, but always there's time for what else do you want to make sure we talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
It's really an exciting time out here in Washington, D.C. to see that there's finally an administration that is serious about just the incredible amount of money that is pumped out and the reason that we have $36 trillion in debt. Remember, the reason interest rates have gone up is because of inflation. Inflation is caused by excessive government spending and the printing of money. That is what has been going on. And if you want to bring inflation under control, we have to bring federal spending under control.
You're not going to get an argument for me. It's funny. All of a sudden, though, speaking of Valentine's, I just got a little notification that Valentine's Day is tomorrow. I'm pretty sure my wife went on my computer and made sure that popped up today, that I would see a reminder.
I'm so surprised that Jerusha is not your special guest tomorrow. It's Valentine's Day. Come on, man.
Goodness. Oh, that's great. My dad says, good to see you, Tom. Keep up the good work. All right. Hey, thanks, Tom. Until next month. Hey, what do you think we're going to be talking about next month?
Next month, we're going to be talking March. We may be talking about that CR, that continuing resolution that Dave Wilson brought up. I'm sure we're going to be talking about the spending and stuff that's going on. We'll probably be talking about some judiciary stuff also. We had a fabulous hearing yesterday with Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, and there was a woman from Canada on free speech across the world and how much it has been stifled. And the work we've done the last 2 years, especially by our chairman, Jim Jordan, to get back to allowing free speech in America and across the world. Because, man, over the last 5 years or so, it's really been restricted. And all the examples that have come out and that we've identified, really important. Because if you don't have the First Amendment, you ain't going to have the rest of them.
Amen to that, brother. Special thank you to Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany for taking time to come on and chat with us and also being available to answer any question that people ask. I will see all of you tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. right here on Facebook when I will be chatting with Wisconsin DPI State Superintendent candidate Brittany Kinzer. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching and as always, have a blessed day.